Welcome to today's Friday's Coffee or Juice with John, as I feel like calling it now. It's a wee bit windy out here, but man, what a week it's been. It's been an incredible week. Teaching at Belmont Christian School all week, being down in Sydney, preparing for Sunday here, and getting involved with this Bishop's sermon, which I'm just writing a couple of articles on as well. And it's so, in the providence of God, that we're looking at this. It's so amazing. So our text today is 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Now, there are people who would read that and go, oh yeah. But that's what the bishop is saying. You know, she's all about mercy and love. And I'm going, no. Your love has to have some content. So I'll give you two illustrations of that from personal experience. One is, as a student in the Free Church College, I remember going to preach in Argyllshire. I think it may have been Tarbert or Campbelltown, I can't remember, maybe Tarbert. And I remember I preached on 1 John, and I remember, sorry about all this wind, this lady said, oh, you sound like, I love the sermon, but you sound like a liberal. Why? Why does speaking about love sound like a liberal? But here's the thing, the devil speaks about love, it needs to have content. And another time I was in a school in Sydney, a posh school, and I used the phrase love is love, and I said it was an absolutely meaningless statement, and one of the teachers went completely berserk because she thought by me saying that I was attacking LGBT. Now you see, what we're talking here is about definition. So if we love one another, love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. So we then have to ask, what is love? Now, we'll get an answer to that tomorrow when we look at the next verse, where we're actually told what love is. But I think you'll notice here, the first thing is this: love comes from God. He is the source of love, as he is the source of all true light. So that everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Now, John is not saying that every manifestation of human love is a genuine aspect of real spiritual life. The capacity to love is what we have as human beings, being made in the image of God. And loving human relationships between non-Christians are part of what we call God's common grace. But here in verse 7, what John is really talking about is the love that Christians have for one another. There's a definite article before love in the Greek, and it's that particular quality of divine love that we are meant to have. And if we don't have that, it indicates that we don't really know God, which is really what John is saying. So he will go on to talk about the evidence of what God's love is. But I think this is really vital, and I think this is really important that we grasp this and we know how to understand it. So if I return to the bishop's sermon, when she's talking about mercy and so on, what she was doing was she was identifying a particular political policy with mercy and saying, if you do not have this, then you are not merciful. And it's funny how so many intelligent people come up with this thing. Well, are you opposed to love? Or are you opposed to mercy? Are you opposed to justice? No, using the words is easy. You know, I'm pretty sure that most dictators would talk about love. Or let me give you an absolutely grotesque example, but nonetheless it illustrates the point. Imagine a man who says that he really loves and cares for children and he wants to protect them, and he might say to his daughter who he's abusing, I'm only doing this because I love you. Well, who can be against love? But it's what he's doing that matters. So my argument in this would be, it's easy to use the word love, but until you can say what it means and until you can live it, it means absolutely nothing. It utterly astounds me how much hatred I've seen at love rallies, and how people use love as a weapon of war, and how it's become very Orwellian in its use, where, you know, love is hate and hate is love. So We are to love one another, for love comes from God. This is what this verse is saying. Christians are to love one another because love comes from God, and if we claim to be from God, then we're going to love one another. If we love one another is what he's saying, then we're being born of God and we know God. And if we don't love God's people, then we've not been born of God and we don't know God. All right, I was going to say tomorrow, but it won't be tomorrow. It will now be on Monday. Hopefully see you then.